So we're just waiting for people to arrive, guys. Give people time to log on. Sometimes there are a few hitches for people. If you have just joined, you can just simply sit quietly till we are ready to begin. Maybe just closing the eyes. Settling into your experience. Just sitting back, guys, and just allowing people to log on. Sometimes people have a few joining issues. We all had a joining issue last week. I turned off. I put it on the wrong setting. I can't quite remember what I did now, but no, it was only afterwards I was checking emails and I realized nobody was on. I had no idea. I'm a bit technologically challenged. In the meantime, take this opportunity to pause. You're just closing the eyes. You may have had a day where there's been lots of stimulation. The eyes can, well, as you know, the eyes can become a bit hard and staring. We can just soften them a little. You've still got time to get yourself a glass of water or orange juice or whatever. So if you just joined us now, there's people joining. I mean, some will watch the recording. But yeah, just have a few minutes. Just pausing. Oh, hi, Joe. We can hear you. I got your email last week after the event. So it's good to know you can hear me. And great. And yeah, let's just wait another couple of minutes, guys, before I let people join before we start. You just spend this few minutes just sinking, as it were, from the head, which we spend a lot of time in, sinking into the heart, sinking into the body, into the heart. Listen, I've got my dog putting his nose up at the window, wanting to be in. Bless him. I'm just going to let him in the house. You just remain quiet, guys. I'll be back. They are they're so honest. You know, his face at the window of the door, he just wanted me. And there's no pretense, there's no mask. It's just this plea. There's nothing else going on. Just that I want you. I want your attention. Okay, so I've called tonight's session You Won't Find Peace of Mind in the Mind. And that's because you won't, basically. It's not there. We think it's there. And we talk about peace of mind, and there's some truth in it, but it's not really what where you find the peace. Now, feel free, guys, to send any questions over. I've got a couple of questions have been sent. Well, one's been sent, and another's been asked twice recently. I was in Glasgow just the weekend, and I was asked the question again. And the first time I thought, I'm not going to respond to that, but I'm going to. I got asked the same question again, so I'm going to go into it. And I think it's actually, on reflection, I think it's worth going into. I've got one sent that yeah, I'm going to respond to. But if you got any tonight, there is a Q&A button here, which is new, so I might just try and see what happens, or send a question over via the chat. Yeah, and we will have a meditation. Yeah, I've got a little bit of Got a short reading and just a verse of poetry tonight. Okay. And feel free not to watch the screen. You might have been in an office and watching the screen all day. Turn it around or turn around yourself, and it's more important that you can hear. Make yourself comfortable. We're not going to rush through it. We're going to take our time. And in a sense, make the next the session, make it a meditation. Well, I don't mean sort of sitting, in your meditation posture. As when the pauses, when you notice yourself drifting, label your thoughts, and just a sort of gentle practice of being present, of presence. That's what we want. Just presence. Now just turn your attention now to your presence. There's an aware presence. Yeah? In a sense, during the session, come back to that. This aware presence, which is untroubled, which doesn't suffer turmoil. It doesn't feel criticized. It doesn't want to be different. It doesn't want to achieve anything. It doesn't want to get rid of anything. It doesn't have opinions. It doesn't have judgments. And it's not an object like this is an object. Or yeah, it's not an object in that same way that we can really put our attention on. It's more like we open to it, just this aware presence. You can't deny its existence. If you can, I'd be worried about you. And, what's going on there? Yeah, it's here, just you are present now, and you are aware now. And then what happens? Off we go. We're aware. It really, it's beautiful and simple when we scrape away or take away all the theories, all the philosophies, all the ideas. Our practice becomes very, very simple. It's the essence of Zen. The essence of Zen is something very simple. If you see me sort of looking to the right, I'm just checking to see if there's any questions or things coming on the chat. So I've not got somebody sat over there and with a board or something. Okay. Honestly, you can, yeah. Anyway, so this aware presence that's easily overlooked. In fact, it's so easily overlooked. It's more like you have to sense it. It is sensed. It is open to, because it doesn't have any physical attributes, as it were. It's not. A thought is an object. A bodily sensation is an object of awareness, as it were. Okay. But this aware presence it's here. You are present now, and you are aware. And then thinking comes from that. It doesn't come before. I think, therefore I am. It's I am. There is aware presence, there is awareness, therefore I think. Therefore thinking happens. So our practice, meditation, practice of awareness, sitting quietly, doing nothing, paying attention, give it whatever name you want, is one of opening to that aware presence. That's why we talk of listening or feeling the body, because feeling the body also helps to bring us into the present moment. You can't be aware of your body and be out of the present. Try it. If you can do it, I'd be very impressed. How did you manage that? I've never seen it before. So as we go through the session, just touching that aware presence, open. Yeah, this. And don't look for anything dramatic. It's not dramatic. It's not a wow, aware presence. It's the only thing that's here all the time. Even the body's changing. Science will tell you the body's changing moment by moment. But this aware presence is here all the time. What we are aware of changes, thoughts, sounds. The awareness sort of shrinks into the head when we get lost in thoughts, and then we're back sensing the presence and the body and the world and people. So there are three qualities that one teacher talks about, and that this aware presence is open, which we've talked about. It's clear, it's got clarity, and something else I've mentioned recently is that it is sensitive. So whilst we're here, whilst we're sitting in this aware presence is it's recognizing or registering the world, the sounds, the bodily sensations, thoughts. This aware presence is it is what registers the body, it's what knows the body, because you can be aware of your body. So this aware presence, in a sense, is greater than the body. Not in a sense, it is greater than the body. And to find peace of mind, what we often do is we try to control the mind. This is how a lot of us approach meditation, particularly in the early days. And my job as a guide and as a teacher is we start there with what people bring through the door, and I did exactly the same. And then what my teacher did, or teachers, they went with me and then they started to orient me towards what was more helpful, towards the truth, towards reality. So what I mean is, this is not about controlling the mind. It's not mind control. The mind, does quieten as we practice over a length of time. But the peace of mind is that there is an ease that comes from just having a quieter mind. But that ease, the peacefulness that and happiness, whatever you want to call it, contentment that arises is because we begin to live not in a world of thoughts, but we, as we practice, we fall back into aware presence. That's the best word I've got for it. That's the best term I've got for it. Spaciousness of mind. And then what happens is thoughts or thinking becomes more of a tool. It's a servant of who you are. This aware presence, if we go back to, some of you see me do the content and the container. If we go back to that, because it's all in there, if we go back to that, we remember that we identify with the contents. Which are thoughts and feelings, our stuff, predominantly thoughts that tend to dominate our experience. So as we begin to pay attention to thoughts, we unhook from thoughts, we allow them to arise and pass away. We give them free rein. We just let them, thank you. We refuse the promise. There's a promise. Oh, yeah, this me. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, 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 yeah. What if? Oh. And so on. It's the world of personal drama. So as we begin to withdraw attention from our attention from there, because that's what we're doing. We label thoughts, thinking, or having a thought. I think you're familiar with them now. If you're not, if there's anything you want explaining, send over in the chat. We fall back into, as it were, the bigger container, which is this aware presence. Ah, this is what I've been looking for all my life. This is it. And your life carries on exactly the same as before, only there's an ease to it. Not all the time. Things happen. Things still happen for me and happen for my teachers. It still all goes on, but it doesn't have the same impact. So I hadn't intended to start off like that. I'm not. I hope that sort of been reasonably clear for you. Do let me know if it isn't, and if you want anything explaining. Let's just have a pause in case anybody does want to write anything. And opportunity just to sense into this presence. It's here now, and you will take it with you when we finish to your lounge or your dinner table, to the family. Each member of your family has this sense of presence, which in all likelihood they overlook. Next door neighbour, they have this sense of presence, which in all likelihood they overlook. could be called an aliveness. It's an alive, aware presence because there's a feeling of being alive, aliveness, which is undeniable. You can't deny that you're not aware and alive. And I hope for a long, many years to come. And I wish with all my heart that they're happy ones. But just as my teacher once said, yeah, there's a little bit of investigating, a little bit of work to do. Not even work. Work's not the right term. A little bit of investigation, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of contemplation, a little bit of exploring our experience to open to this. Otherwise, we're just caught in the trap. And you know what trap I'm talking about? Because we're caught in it. And the vast majority of people are caught in it. So let's just have a few moments of quiet, a pause. Perhaps close your eyes and sense this aware presence or feel this aware presence. Feel the body. That's it. Just sensing into the body, and you see that you get carried away, and that's fine. Just return back home. So if you wish, you can carry on with your eyes closed and or laying down, whatever you're doing. Um, the first question, and this is one I've been asked, um, actually 3 times recently. Yeah. Anyway, um, and the first time I got asked it was a few weeks ago, and I didn't really want to answer. I thought it's pretty pointless, really. But on reflection, I think, well, it's worth going into. Where do thoughts come from? So I can understand the question, absolutely, where do thoughts come from? But if I give you the place where they came from, or if I could give you the place where, would it help? Um, it, it wouldn't really, because you'd still be in the same position of being hypnotized by thoughts. We attach, we cling to thoughts. We still have an over busy mind. A better way of phrasing the question is, how do thoughts appear? Or what's what's the origin of thoughts? But it's similar to asking what's the origin of a tree, or where does a tree come from? Where's a tree come from? You might say out the ground. No, that's true. But if you look closer, where does the tree come from? What's the origin of a tree? Well, sunshine. No sunshine, no tree. This is related to the question about thoughts. Water, rain. So there are clouds involved, sunshine, clouds, rain, air, oxygen, all the other gases are in the air, whatever they are, I don't know. Um, the soil, the dead animals, the dead leaves, the rotting leaves, ev- yeah, everything in the soil that goes down, breaks down, the worms that break down the soil, all the other little insects that help break it down. So where does a tree come from? It is a result of a multitude of conditions. In the Buddhist tradition, it's called conditionality. Nothing exists in its own right. It is not even a collection, not quite the right word, but let's go with a collection of conditions, and those conditions are infinite. Yeah, they you can't really take away the sunshine, and there's no tree, there's no rain, there's no clouds. After a while, there may not be any soil. It, it, so you take away the soil, there's no nutrients, no nourishment for the tree. So a tree is not a thing. It doesn't come from a place. It doesn't come from one thing. It is the result of a, a myriad a myriad conditions. And in the Buddhist tradition, it says it's an infinite number of conditions. There's no end to it. And it's the same with a human being. Take away take away the water element. See how far we get. The earth element, the heat element, the air element. Same as ourselves, we are a result of a certain set of conditions which give rise to Suryacitta, to Ben, to Jill, to Frank, to Joe. And in the Buddhist tradition, this is called insight. It's gaining insight into life that, gosh, I'm not just this discrete entity. Because that's the source of a lot of our problems. And I'm going to go into that in a little while. But so it's the same with the thought. Where do thoughts come from? They are the result of a multitude of conditions. You could say they arise because you're alive. And you are alive because you are the result of a multitude of conditions: earth, water, fire, the sunshine. It's just infinite. Because of your mother, father, them, yeah, going back, who knows? There's no final place that, oh, that's where it comes from. Everything is a result of of certain conditions. Same with a thought. My thoughts are slightly different from your thoughts, slightly, just a different content, because of my conditioning has been slightly different from yours. And each of you is slightly different. Your children's or your friend will be slightly different. But go to another community, maybe another country, another culture, and still be thoughts, but the content will be that much different because of the conditioning. The conditions vary more from culture to culture than maybe from neighbour to neighbour or family members. So thoughts don't come from a place. They are a result of a multitude of conditions that play and result in a thought. This arising of energy. They're a blip of energy. That's all they are. Some of them are useful. It's a wonderful, magical tool of the human being, function of the human being. What a thing to be able to do is to think and to ponder and to reflect and to. But this magnificent tool has got out of hand. Very much out of hand. Instead of being the servant, it's the master. And not a very kind one often. So that's where thoughts come from. the, the nature of thought is the same no matter where you go, no matter who we're talking about. The nature of thought always remains the same, this blip of energy. That's as best I can do because I'm not a scientist. I haven't, you can't, but the nature is the same. Now, the reason I can say that is because everything is impermanent. So the nature of these thoughts is impermanent. They're transient. They don't last. They're transparent. If you really look at a thought, there's nothing to it. It's like a puff of smoke. Ooh. But it's what we take to be the realest thing in life are our thoughts. And that is the problem. It's that clinging to, because they're full of our ideas. They define us, see. My ideas, my ideals, my beliefs define me. I'm very attached and I cling to my ideals and my beliefs. And if you challenge them, if someone comes along and challenges them, well, obviously they need seen to. I need to give you a good, telling off. Because you're obviously wrong. Can you not see? And so the human being, let's just use a model of the ocean. The human being, we could say, is, if we say the human being is like an ocean, and on the surface, uh, there are always waves. Even on the stillest of days, there are waves. And then the storms come and it really makes hell. You wouldn't want to be out there. Now, the waves, you could say, are the equivalent of living in the world of thoughts. There's always something going on. Yeah, always. So even on the stillest of days, there's always a lot going on. So even if our mind does quieten, and it does quieten, and it's much nicer having a quieter mind than a busy mind. It's much more pleasant. But it doesn't take much. Again, it'll come up, and away we go. There's always something. Now, that continues. That little movement of the surface always continues, always, okay? Particularly in the ocean. Now, if we go to the depths of the ocean, that's where the calm is. It's where the power is. It's where the beauty is. I'm not saying that waves are not beautiful, but for the sense of the metaphor, it's where um, the stillness is. And that's equivalent to what we talked about earlier about the aware presence. That's the stillness, but we overlook it. So as we cease to identify with thoughts, getting caught up with thoughts, we naturally, it's like keeping hold of the side of a boat, we naturally fall into, submerge into this aware presence, into still we use the mind, we can function, we can think clear, there's clear thinking and all that goes on. But that is where peace is. It's not in the mind. It's I've said it a number of times. So I've got an email here um, from someone on the program, but let's just have a few moments. I'm going to go into this, and then I want to read you a reading and just a little bit of a poem from William Blake, who says it very well. So just sitting quietly, feeling the body, feeling the breath. That's it. Allowing thoughts to just arise and to do their thing, pass away. We can refuse their promise. So, dear Suryacitta, I'm gaining much from my membership of Awakening Heart, thank you. I just watched the latest video and I found the ABC of mindfulness something I have gone back to since coming to the training with you last year. As a comment or advice, I suppose I found lately I've been very much in the small container, struggling in caring for my mum. I can see that I'm struggling and can observe repetitive overthinking, which is then spilled out as upset. I could see this was happening and to some extent could watch the thought and wanted to stop myself but found I couldn't. Very much as in the video, there was a sense of nowhere else the feelings could go but to spill over. This is a bit of a ramble, but just how to grab yourself in the midst of feeling overwhelmed. I could see before and after, but in the moment I just felt powerless and almost like an out of body experience where I just wanted to stop how I was responding to a certain situation. What has been helpful also is the knowledge of how often I do try and change the contents and battle against the contents. In truth, I think I'm only just realizing how much I do this. I look forward to continuing the practice. Well, first of all, um, we will lose it. You, Have a long-term view of this, because we've been getting upset. We've been in the small container for a lot of years, and we're well practiced in that. So take the pressure off, have a long-term view, first of all. And when you lose it, that's okay. It's got to be okay. The whole world loses it. And I know you don't want to, with your mum, particularly in a vulnerable state. But if at all possible, take yourself away, sit down and put your hand on your heart. Allow yourself to be upset, maybe away from your mum. Be as upset as you want. Allow yourself to be upset. It'll pass through quicker. Being upset consciously is much better, wiser than being upset unconsciously. So be consciously upset. I'm really upset. I feel really upset. It's the battling with the upset that's the problem. Now, in the midst of it, you might not be able to label your thoughts. It doesn't matter. Later on, when you've settled a bit, maybe when you've gone back home or if you have time, sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and just bring the whole thing to mind. And just bring the whole thing to mind and feel it in the body. What happened? Maybe your mum said something, or you felt you, you fell short of expectations, whatever. And bring it to mind and allow yourself to feel that upset again, but in this, you contain it. It was when that happened. That's when I began to really feel upset, when she said this or he said that. And that's how you gain wisdom into um, those points into our own behavior, our own vulnerabilities, our own um, um, buttons. Remember the two daggers? The first dagger is you're looking after your mum, and sometimes it's difficult. That's the first dagger. Notice the best you can, and you might not do it in the moment when you're using the second dagger. Oh, there I go. This is, oh, I can't stand it. Second dagger. Now, what will happen over time is those moments of upset, have a longer term view, please. Don't put pressure on yourself. Will decrease in intensity and duration. And you'll be able to come back to a bigger container more often, more of the time. But most of all, develop as much kindness to yourself as you can muster. It's okay to be upset. It's got to be. But what is really useful is that later on, after the event, is bringing the issue to mind, and you notice, you go, oh yeah, when that happened, and oh, I felt really, ah, ah. That's how you gain insight into it. But most of us just want to push it away, forget about it. Just do it for 5 minutes. And you'll find that it's actually called working with upsets once a day. Sometimes on courses that I ask people, be aware, work with an upset once a day, just one upset, not all the upsets, just work with one upset. Because if you work with one upset, you work with them all because it's all the same functioning. It's all the same. And just one more thing. Be aware of the picture with which you're entering into um, the setting. Maybe if it's in this case with your mom or any setting. Be aware of the picture in which you are entering into it with. A picture of this is how I expect it to go. Or, oh, I know this is going to be, I know this is going to be horrible. I know this is going to be so tough. It's a picture. You've already made your mind up. Or you're going to expect it to be rosy or whatever. It's a picture. And reality will never fit that picture. It's similar to the bursting of the balloon. You blow the balloon up. Bigger the balloon, the bigger the disappointment. But also work with the small disappointments. There's other disappointments in your life, difficult moments in your life, other than working with your mum. Start with those small ones. Start with one of those small ones. Maybe a little altercation with a work colleague. Or, somebody cut you up in the traffic. Interesting. And you want to you want to shoot them. Yeah. Although it's best if it's another person that you know, because you can bring it to mind and just really sort of almost replay it. Because then you're out of it. You're looking in. It's a wonderful way of working, and start with something a little bit easier maybe start with something a little bit easier than your mum. Something's as loaded and as what can be difficult. Being a carer. So I hope that's helped. Feel free. I'm not gonna. It's anonymous. I'm not gonna mention your name, but you know who you are. So, and but all of us work with one upset a day. Maybe I'll say more about it in another webinar or a video. Um, yeah, yeah. Okay. So let's have a pause before we end with something from a poem and a short reading, and I just want to unpack them briefly. Bring the issue to mind later on is great advice. Very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome. It is. It's a wonderful thing to do because you're not in it, but you're aware of it. And so you can't really gain insight into it when you're in it. It's just too much. So you bring it to mind later on. And then you're not in it. Coming back to this sense of aliveness, sense of presence, the body. Okay, there's a little something here from William Blake. Some of you may have heard of him. He was in the 17th century, 18th, 17th, maybe the 18th century. Yes, a couple of hundred years ago at least. I can't quite remember the date now, but a wonderful poet and a mystic. And he was one of my own teacher's favourite poets. He used to sort of give seminars on his poetry and his writings. It's just something I come across. A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. Wonderful, isn't it? It's just a truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. It is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. It is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. So it's just the ending, really. This man was made for joy and woe, not for joy only, not for woe only, for joy and woe. They're like two sides of the same coin. You can't have a two-headed coin, or you can, but it's not a proper coin. No, anyway. There's still two sides of a coin. Okay, you can't just have a one-sided coin. They come together, and when we are wise enough to realize that when one is, in the words of paraphrasing Carl Hilgebrand, when one is sleeping with us in the bed, the other is standing at the headboard. And the next night, maybe they change positions, waiting in the morning. So it's that we have to welcome the joys, the pleasures, the pleasant and the unpleasant. Learning, that's what life is. That's actually it. Without going into this, which is the next one. Okay, this is from Charlotte Joko Beck. It's not that I hear the birds, there is just hearing the birds. Let yourself be hearing, seeing, tasting. It is the false I that interrupts the wonder with the constant desire to think about I. And all the while the wonder is occurring. The birds sing, the cars go by, and the body's sensations continue, the heart is beating. Life is a second by second miracle, but dreaming our I dreams, we miss it. So it's when we get into, see, our life is very simple. We complicate it with our I dreams, with what you're saying here. We can't just listen to the birds. We can't just listen to the traffic. We can't just walk down the street or watch the pots. We can't just talk to a friend or send a text. We are too busy doing something else. What are we doing? Lost in our I dreams. The world of thought, the world of stories, the world of personal drama. There's no peace there. Thinking about ourselves doesn't bring us peace. And see, one of the things we've lost trust in our essential nature. Buddhism calls it Buddha nature, but we don't have to call it that. We can call it our natural intelligence. See, if we go back, there's a natural intelligence running this universe. Maybe it just is the universe, but it's running the universe. It knows, it shines the sun, it grows the grass, it sends rain down, it's the weather. It creates cars. We think we create cars. Yeah, good. Not really. Its natural intelligence is behind it all. How did the sperm know to go to the egg at the wall of the uterus? Natural intelligence. How did the egg know to attach itself to the wall of the uterus so the sperm could find it? How did it know to grow into a fetus into and be born as a child? Natural intelligence. How did it know to grow a right arm or a left foot or two eyes or a heart? Natural intelligence. Why don't you remember being born? Because you weren't there. The sense of I comes later. You were just a bundle of wonder. What? The rational mind comes later. We have two dogs, Jai and Banky. They don't know the word thirst. They don't know the word water. When they get a feeling in the throat, what do? They just go to the bowl. Natural intelligence. Natural intelligence digests the food. Natural intelligence tells you when to eat. I mean, we get mixed up a bit there sometimes. Our eye dreams get into that, and I need more, I need this, I need that. See, natural intelligence. It grows the trees, it blows the wind, circulates the planet around the sun. See, we've lost trust in that. And so we overthink to try and compensate. And it's like crumbs at the table of a banquet. We're underneath the table eating the crumbs. We're actually all under the table eating the crumbs. There's very few people eating the banquet, which is trusting in that natural intelligence. It's another term for this aware presence. Where is it? It's not that I hear the birds. There is just hearing the birds. There is just a knowing that there's hearing the birds. It's just a knowing, a natural intelligence. And when we haven't lost touch with it completely because it's still here. But we're too preoccupied with our dramas. So preoccupied. Getting it right. What does she think of me? What will he think of me? With our ambitions, with our drives, with our wants, with our what we want and what we don't want. Protecting ourselves. We've got, we're like in an airplane with a beautiful view all around, and all we're doing is our eyes are on the instrument panel. Yeah, and that's actually on autopilot, but we don't realize it. Yeah, and we miss the deep blue sky, the mountains in the distance. We'll miss the whole of life because we're so concerned with the instrument panel. And the instrument panel is our, what will people think about me? What about this? What about that? So preoccupied with it. And this is where our practice is leading very gradually. It doesn't happen in a clap of the hand, in a flash. Very gradually, just loosen all that investment in the personal drama, and we fall back into start trusting in something that's a lot wiser than egoic conditioning. So there you go. Hope you found that helpful, guys. Yeah. I think that's probably about all for this evening. Yeah. William Blake. If you find some William Blake, some of his stuff is really wonderful. And again, some of you have heard me talk about Charlotte Joko Beck before. Read quite a lot from. So it's been a pleasure, and have a good evening. You go have your dinner and talk to your families, your friends. Have a night by yourself. Flick on the TV, watch a movie, glass of wine, whatever it is, but a bit of chocolate. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Bye bye.